Hi, my name is Teal, and I'm your host for the SweatNet Be Amazing podcast, where we share stories of amazing women who live in our communities. My hope is that you will feel encouraged and inspired after listening to each episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Be Amazing podcast. I am your host, Seal, and I am so excited to have you join me again today for another great episode. I cannot wait to share who my guest is today. But before we do that, let's talk about the two events coming to Charlotte. The first one is Strong Camp Charlotte, which is being put on by Strong Fitness Magazine. Fitness and women coming together. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to have workouts and seminars. We've got an all-star team of instructors and guest speakers. So you do not want to miss this. There is an early bird promo code right now that you can use. It's early bird 2021. It's good through the end of February. It gets you 15% off. So visit strongcamp.com and you can register for the Charlotte Strong Camp there. Or you can go to my Instagram at @SealSmart and just click on the link tree. It'll take you right there. You can put in the code, you'll get the 15% off, and you are good to go. And then my next event, which is my heart, it's my passion, it's the Be Amazing weekend. We're having it here in Charlotte. It is going to be amazing. It is all about bringing women together through fitness, using that as just a way to pull all of us together. We have a 5K walk, run, race. We have Miss Be Amazing Bikini. We have the Be Amazing Showcase, which is where you can take the runway and celebrate your journey. And then we're going to celebrate all together at the Be Amazing Gala and our special entertainment, y'all. Are you ready? Men in Bras, benefiting Carolina Breast Friends, which is the Pink House here in Charlotte. So you don't want to miss this. It's going to be too much fun. Go ahead and go to the Be Amazing Weekend website and drop your email so you can stay up to date on when registration opens. Also, follow us on Instagram at Be Amazing Weekend. Now, let's talk about my guest today. Her name is Taylor Calamese. And on this episode, you're going to hear about what happens when this coach is forced to become her own student and push through. So many of us have faced the hardships and the challenges of 2020 since the start of the COVID pandemic. And Taylor's challenge was that she had just signed on a new facility, a larger gym, one that was bigger than she's ever had. But as soon as COVID hit, the lockdowns began and it halted construction. And then there she was with this new facility and just full of fear and doubt. Hear how Taylor listened to her own advice to just see it through. If it's for you, it's for you. She persevered and is now holding private individualized luxury fitness experiences in her new facility by UNCC called Charlotte Fit. Stay tuned for this incredible conversation with Taylor. Welcome to the show, Taylor. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
This is going to be such a fun conversation. And I have to get into this because we just talked about this a second ago. But we met through a campaign that was going on, and I want to say it's still going on now, is I Heart Water. And that's how you and I actually connected, because Mecklenburg County was doing it here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's still running.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're both like spokespeople. Would you say spokespeople?
I would say spokespeople or ambassadors. I don't know if that's the right term. Yeah. So that's how we met. And it's been awesome to see you just like explode on the scene, because you've been doing this for a while, but like all of a sudden this year, it's been like, boom, you're here. But before we get into all that, tell us a little bit about you, other than I do know that you're a Charlottean for real.
Yeah, Charlotte native.
So I'm going to let you kind of expand off of that.
Okay. So as you mentioned, I'm a Charlotte native. I actually grew up 8 minutes away from my current gym and studio. I guess we could take it back to, I started running track at the age of 12 for AAU. So Charlotte Flights is a huge AAU track team here. And so I ran all throughout high school and college. I actually got a track scholarship to Winston-Salem State University. And so the base was obviously in health and fitness and being active. During high school, I struggled with the eating disorder. So I was bulimic. And so that's characterized by binging and purging. I had this really kind of dysmorphic idea of my body. I didn't want to weigh any more than 120 pounds. I thought anything over 120 pounds was overweight, particularly for my size. And so I would do things like go weigh myself, and maybe I weighed 118 pounds. And then I would go binge on like Wendy's and donuts and things like that. And I would go weigh again and it would say 120 or 121. So then I would go throw up. So that was much of high school, even though I was running the whole time. My mom found out about it. And so I ended up seeing a therapist and finding out that my disordered eating around my body and food really came from a way of like wanting to control things. And so if I felt like life was out of control, if nothing else, I could control my weight and I could control how food impacted my body. So I struggled with that through high school, some of college. I actually I went to grad school at ECU, East Carolina University. I started bodybuilding there. It was a very triggering experience because coming out of an eating disorder background and then having to be so cognizant of my body and how it should look on a certain timeline and for other people, and having to like manage and restrict my calories in such a way to get a certain result over my body made me like sent me into kind of a tailspin of binging and purging again. So from there, just realizing like that is not my scene. I can't do that mentally. That doesn't put me in a good space. But even during this time, I was really getting into health and fitness and learning it outside of having to do it for a team and having a practice. And so like finding my own autonomy and what feels good to me and enjoyable in physical activity. And so the big thing is for as long as like I can remember, I've always wanted to make women feel good about themselves. And so at first I wanted to be a hairstylist and like a dermatologist. So all the fields always were like, I want women to feel better about themselves. I want them to look better and feel better. And so struggling with my own eating disorders and really having to rely on I had to be able to view my body in a different way outside of the scale. And so getting strong, getting fit, seeing the progression outside of the scale, feeling my energy levels, my mental capacity. It's like, this is what I want to pass along to others. Like, this is my calling because health and fitness quite literally saved my life. So in grad school, I was studying kinesiology. It used to be exercise sports science. So learning the science, the research, the tools, how to measure and assess physical activity, and then promote it on a psychological level in the general population was like my whole program. So yeah, so I started, let's see, I was in grad school, I was teaching as faculty. I got a job at a gym. That was like my first experience personal training. Eventually, the gym did not work out. I was there for a year. So I opened up my own studio in Greenville, North Carolina. I hated Greenville. My mom was like, well, why don't you move back to Charlotte? I'm like, I can't just pick up my business, but that's what I did. And I remember I was so worried moving back. Like, Charlotte's so big. How will anybody ever know me? How will I ever succeed? And I mean, what's for you is for you. And when you're intentional on your path and in your purpose and you do what comes intuitively to you, people are constantly drawn to that. And they're drawn to authenticness and people of integrity who add value. So here I am in Charlotte since 2015.
This is awesome because I didn't know. I knew you had a story. Like I knew there had to be more reasoning and more purpose behind just opening a gym
Mhm.
and working with women intentionally. And I did not know that piece behind that you had battled your own eating disorder. What what for you, like, was there a defining moment for you that you finally were just like, I'm done with this, like I'm done beating myself up, I'm done trying to control that? Like, was there a moment?
Mm, yeah. So I think the big thing is I remember in grad school, I went to go visit my aunt and we had just ate. And then I was like eating again, like right after. And I remember she said to me, like, why are you eating again? And for some reason, that moment, and maybe the way she said it to me, um, made me really wonder, like, why am I eating again? I'm not hungry. And that's part of even when this may sound weird, even when picking a eating disorder that made the most sense to me, it was bulimia because it's like I don't want to starve myself. I love food. I enjoy food. I just don't want to gain weight from food. So like binge purge, binge purge. Um, but it was like, why am I still eating and I'm not hungry? And I think the big thing for me that I really had to get honest about was I don't like feeling without and I don't like feeling restricted. And so the moment I feel like I'll go without food, I binge on it. And so really, I think the pivotal moment was that. But the big thing was having to really get honest about myself, with myself about like why, what is the trigger? Why am I eating this way? Because to me, if you're not hungry, then food is not the answer. And so, or I say like, if hunger is not the problem, then food is not the solution. And so anytime you're eating outside of times that like your body is hungry or like on a certain cadence to deliver the nutrients it needs, but you're eating like out of boredom, sadness, loneliness, things like that. It's like you really have to get to the heart of it. Like, why? How have I developed this type of psychology around food and using it in such a way that it's no longer for nutrients or nourishment? And I feel like although many people they may not struggle with the eating disorder, I feel like the majority of the population struggles with disordered eating.
It's the relationship with food.
Mhm.
It's how you grow up with it. Like, so, and I've talked about this before, but for me, I it food was used to celebrate, food was used to gather together, food was used, if it rained, mom baked cookies, food was for it solved, like, it will solve. It's like Mary Poppins and a spoonful of sugar, it will solve the world's problems, right?
Absolutely,
And I
absolutely.
feel like that, but it comes down to that, having that relationship with food. And I think this conversation is so important because I know there's a lot of I think this is a typical struggle for women,
Mhm.
and the relationship with food, and the fact of the restrictiveness, how we view food, how we view it for our bodies. Some people don't eat at all, or they stay away, starve themselves. Other people, like you said, you went through bulimia. Um, Other people, it's just, you know inconsistency. They kind of, they restrict themselves, as a form, like you said, as a form of like, I can't control anything else in life, but I can control that. What would
Absolutely.
you say to someone that's struggling with that right now?
I think much to what helped me is like really like sit down and get to the root of it. Is it like childhood things, which most of us have developed relationships around food based on our childhood, like you mentioned. But like what's going on? Like what are you looking to food to solve? And I think we just operate in the space of on like a kind of disengaged, unconscious type of like mythology around food we're eating when we're like watching TV because we don't even assimilate that we pair eating and watching TV together. Like that simulates the end of our day, or that we have a glass of wine to simulate like relaxation, or maybe food and like big pots of food and overeating are part of the culture. Like think of Italian culture. So I really think the big thing is like, what are you looking to food to solve? Because if it's like I said, if it's not hunger, then you're looking for something, and it's like, how can we solve that in a non-food related way? And so I have clients do homework because I'm asking them, because we do nutrition coaching in our personal training programs. But it's like, what are you looking at food for? And it's like, well, I think I'm just bored when I start eating. And it's like, I want you to write a list of 3 things you can do when you're bored that are outside of eating. And I want them to be very realistic to you. So if you write down, go take a walk, and that's not realistic for you, that you're not going to get up, like, I don't want you to write that. I want you to figure out the 3 things you can do. They're non-food related that will help you in times of boredom, help you in times of sadness, whatever you're looking for. Because most of the time it's an emotional response, or I'm sure you know still the clean your plate club, where you couldn't get up from the table till you cleaned your plate. So now you, as an adult, you feel the same way. You operate that in that, or show that, or manifest that in the same way that regardless of if you're full, your body's screaming it's full, you could not get up from the table when you were a child until you finish all your food. So that's your psychology around it.
That's awesome. I had asked you, to share 3 things, and I'm like, here we go, right here. 3 things. Like, this is 3 things to do when you find yourself bored, like writing that down and not making food your go-to.
Right.
Like, I think that's that's a great way to do it. Cause I don't know how many, I don't think that I've ever even done that. Like, what would I do, if I'm bored? Because I'm the
Mhm.
same way. I'm like, TV, like, want to eat
Yeah,
something while watching
we have our
TV, like,
triggers.
kick it. Yeah.
And we don't even, that would be another thing, like identify your triggers. Like for me, if I think too much about my body, or if I'm too restricted, that is a trigger for me. I don't like being told no or being withheld from. And so, like, identify the triggers. Like for me, people ask about bodybuilding all the time. It's like, I probably will never do that again,
Now,
and
we'll go back a second. How long did you do the bodybuilding? And did you do bodybuilding or did you do figure?
I did physique actually.
Okay.
So physique is right before bodybuilding for those of you who don't know. So there's bikini, which is like a little softer. Then you have figure. I think you did figure, right? You look
No,
like
I
figure.
actually did fitness. So I did fitness for like 10 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But I train women for bikini. And I have in
Okay.
the past gone, like, I've had a couple clients that did figure. But when I started, it was only fitness and
Mhm.
bodybuilding. There was not this whole like list of,
Spectrum.
yeah, there wasn't a whole list of things to do. And then now it's like, well, you can go bikini, you can go model, you can go transformation, you can, like, there's
Mhm.
all these different things. So I was just really curious about your experience with that. But
Yeah,
that's
I did
interesting.
physique, which is right below bodybuilding. It's still a little more feminine, but I wanted to do the dance routine. But I actually, when I trained for my first show, I was ready to go, and the show was in December. They canceled it at the beginning of December, so I was down to probably what percent? I was probably at 12% body fat, and then they canceled the show. So that was really discouraging. I went on like this binge kind of thing, which I think many bodybuilders, and that's what I found out too. The sport's really not that healthy. Like most bodybuilders are operating between like really restrictive, getting ready for a show, or like binging and eating everything, and their body is like, and their metabolism is so jacked up because they're just fluctuating between the two extremes. But then I binged, and then I was like, okay, Taylor, get together. And so I prepared for a show in April here in Greensboro. And I was not ready. Like the week before, I was like eating donuts. I was just like, I'm over this because I've been training for over a year and a half now at this point, and I was just over it. But yeah, I did physique. I wanted to dance.
That's awesome. Well, it's really interesting because my experience with it was different than yours. And just like you said, it's what triggers, like, what are the triggers for you? I mean, I think being able to recognize that and then know that, like, yeah, that's not where I need to even be. And I think that's important for anyone listening. Like, we all have triggers, they're all different. And just being aware of what might trigger you is really key. And that and no shame in it. And it's okay if it's not somebody else's, and it's yours. And but knowing that about yourself, I just think that having that self-awareness is important.
It's super important. And I what I found is that most people don't trust themselves to make good decisions. I would be keen to say like in life, but let's say around food, they don't trust themselves to make, and I say quote unquote, good decisions around food, or trust themselves to give themselves what their body needs to function at its optimal level. And so there, I'm sure you get this too. There's a constant thing of, is this a good food? Is this a bad food? Should I eat this? Should I not eat that? And it's like intuitively, we've overrode the system that our body can tell us what's good for it. And I feel like many of our bodies are in such distress that we don't even know what feels good anymore. Or we're eating, and my big thing is like we're eating foods that psychologically may feel good to us, but if they cause bloating, if they cause you to not be able to use the bathroom anymore, if they cause you like your stomach's in distress, that's not a feel good food. As much as you feel good, you think you feel good when you eat it, if it's causing your body distress, that's not your food. And so, do I believe in like, no, you can't eat certain foods? No, but I think you should pay attention to how your body responds. Do you have like eczema triggers after? Are you breaking out in pimples after? Like, there's just so many things that I think people check out of their bodies, either from like chronic pain, chronic fatigue, they don't like their bodies. And so I really challenge people like turn back in, like pay attention to what your body's telling you, learn to trust yourself. Learn to trust that I'm not the be all end all around food. I'm here to guide you, but ultimately, you know what feels good to you. Your body will reach out for what feels good to you.
I'm into that. Your body will tell you. Like, it will totally tell you. And what you experience doesn't mean I'm going to experience that. And
Exactly.
and that's, again, that just goes back to, just being self-aware and giving yourself credit. Like, you know your body and better than anybody. Like, we can only do so much. It's in a trainer or nutritionist can only do so much. Like, it's it comes down to you, and then
Absolutely.
communicating that and letting somebody know. And I really think that's a big thing,
Hmm.
really important. Well, I want to switch the gears here, because I want to talk about you and your
Okay.
your gym, because
Okay.
I know that. So now we have the foundation. So this is kind of built, really, the foundation of the why that you do what you do. But tell us a little bit about your gym, and it opened in 2020, which is like mind blowing. And they wrote an article about you in Charlotte 5, which was awesome. But tell us a little bit about your gym, like that whole experience.
First and foremost, so Charlotte Fit is a boutique personal training studio. It's specifically catering to the modern woman who's desiring a more luxury experience when she's training, a more individualized and customized training experience tailored specifically to her goals. And so, much like you mentioned, everybody's an individual. What works for one person doesn't work for the next. And so, I don't believe in like workouts of the day. I believe that everybody should have a very specific workout for their goals. Um, and then it's tailored to the lifestyle as well. So there's a lot of flexibility, and it's by appointment only gym. So everybody gets their intimacy and exclusivity in their training regimen or health programming. Um, I've been here in Charlotte, back in Charlotte, like I mentioned, since 2015. I actually started in like a therapist office kind of setting. So it wasn't, I just needed the space. So it was 800 square feet. That was in 2015. Like in 2017, I moved to my next location, which was then 1,200 square feet. It was in a warehouse space. Wasn't great for walk through traffic. It had a nice little office suite that I decked out, but then we were just in a warehouse training. So that was good. I was able to bring on another trainer there. I was also able to expand to offer small group because previously I could only do private. So there's two trainers in the building. Then I have an office manager now, and we've like bumped up this in the space size and how many clients we can take on. But then I was like, well, all we can do in this space is train. Like I couldn't offer any classes or workshops. It wasn't really conducive for a workshop feel. It was literally like a warehouse that I kind of decked out. So then I'm like, I need to move. I need to be able to like offer classes. I need to be able to host classes. I need to be able to rent out the space when I'm not here. I needed to be functional across like all kind of like methods and across the day so that, to be very frank, that this rent makes sense. I don't want the space sitting. So then in like November of 2019, I started looking for spaces. I found my space in February. I signed the lease. I had to have signed the lease. Like I found the beginning of February, signed the lease at the end of February. And then we all know like March, all hell broke out. And I was essentially paying for two spaces because I was supposed to sign the lease, and we were going to move and open in April 16th. I sent out letters to all the current clients, but then COVID happened. So that like shut down everything from like the contractors to people being able to like move around the city unless you were a essential worker. So I'm like, I'm paying on two spaces right now. And I've just upped into this bigger space, more rent, more increase in like utilities. And will the world even need in-person services at this point? So I was very, very depressed. I was very depressed. And I think what made it worse was that on social media, everybody else seemed so motivated. They were talking about the pivot and now's a good time to pivot. Like it seemed like everybody was taking it in stride. And I'm like, why doesn't anybody else feel it like I'm feeling it? Like this doesn't feel good. Like the state of the world is so uncertain. The state of my business is uncertain, and I'm still having to show up for people. I was like constantly anxious every day that people are going to email me to cancel because once we went into lockdown, I can only offer virtual sessions. The value that I thought I had in the space, I can no longer offer. So I like every day I'm checking my email. I'm so nervous to see like how many cancellations do I have. And so really just trying to hold off people from like not canceling while I'm like figuring it out and making sure there's still an income to even like build this new space. So yeah, so probably April, June, they started construction back. But there was time I wouldn't even go visit the space because I'm like, there's no way I can make this work. It was in such like they had like demoed some stuff. It was just not good. The vision I have for I'm like, there's no way I can bring this to life. And I mean, it just goes to show like what's for you is for you. Like keep pushing. And that's the hardest thing because you're gonna doubt yourself. You're gonna doubt that it can work, even if it's not a pandemic, just your own internal struggles and fears will keep you back if you let them. But I think the big thing was I would rather have this space when the world opens back up and have it there for people than to like shut down everything and say no and like it's too risky and then people are looking for the space and it's not there. And like that would kill me more than if I spent all the money to see it through and be like, okay, it just didn't work. I built this big, beautiful space. I love it. I'm so proud of it. It is such my vibe and it's authentic to me. It's an artsy space, but it's also, and it has a beautiful aesthetic, but it's also, it's not too nice where you feel like you can't touch stuff. You know, you walk into people's living rooms and it's so nice, but it's like you feel like you can't sit down and get comfortable. It's just a great vibe. It is a vibe and it's I'm so glad that now I can like rent out the space for other events. It's nice enough where it can be flipped from fitness to your baby shower or a launch of something or engagement party. So I'm really proud of what it represents.
That's awesome. I can't wait to visit. I already told you that. So I have to come work out. Like we've already said that. Like we're gonna do a
I can't
workout
wait
together.
to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do a workout
We're
video and
gonna
everything.
yes, we're gonna go live. Stay tuned. I'll let you know. Follow us on Instagram.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm so happy for you, and like I could tell, like when I was watching things, kind of when I was watching things unfold on Instagram, and I knew that there was something more to it than yes, that you're happy that you're opening a space and you worked hard for this gym, but it was so much deeper than that, like so much more. And I think what a perfect example of pressing through and pushing through the hard place and where it would be easier just to pack up and go home and just be
Mhm.
like, this I'm not even gonna like, everything is everybody else around you or things around you are folding and people are, everybody's stressed and you manage to stay true to who you are and follow it through and that's awesome and congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I'm so glad that like I said, I can't wait to come see it, and I encourage everybody to visit you. Where is it located exactly?
So I'm located right in North Charlotte, across from UNCC.
Right
Um,
on. Awesome.
so in the plaza, everybody tends to know where like Kabuto's is or the Harris Teeter. So I'm
Yeah.
in the plaza.
Okay. Right on. That's awesome. Well, before we go to this next piece that I'm going to ask you about, give us three. Are there three exercises you would recommend for somebody to do at home? Like, do you have like three exercises that are like for anybody that's just trying to get up and get moving or get motivated?
Yeah. So well, my first is always like walking is always great. I know it's getting colder. But walking is like my first go-to, just for health. My first thing is like health and preventative maintenance first, and then we can focus on your more fitness goals and aesthetic type things. And then I'm very traditional. I feel like the traditional exercises always do it: squats, push-ups, and sit-ups. And you could design a whole like circuit around squats, push-ups, and sit-ups. I feel like as fancy as it gets, everything, the traditional stuff still very much works.
I high five you on the basics. Like that's where it's at. Like that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
That's it.
No
We don't need,
fancy trick.
we don't need all the tricks.
We
That's
don't, and
so
everybody
cool.
wants trick. But
Yeah.
like the basics, I feel like, and that ab wheel. You
Yes.
remember the ab, like an old
Yes.
school. I pulled that out at the gym, and that is still one of the toughest exercise for all the clients. And it's like I have all this other fancy stuff around, but the ab wheel, and I remember like I grew up on my mom's ab wheel trying to like do that. And it's still one of my favorite, just old school exercise piece of exercise equipment.
Yeah, that's it. Like even I was even using a concrete, like I have a big box that I can pull out, but I didn't have time to pull it out in the driveway. So I just grabbed like my concrete block for step ups. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's it. That's all I need.
You don't need, and people like, even when I do the virtual training, that's like where I call clients in real time and I work with whatever equipment they have. They're always like, Taylor, what should I get? And it's like, I don't feel like you should have to spend money to be fit. Being fit and being healthy is free. Now, time constraints and other obligations in life absolutely matter, but being fit is free. We've found ways to capitalize off of it. And even with me having a gym, obviously you have to pay to be there. But like in general, I say like you don't have to spend money to start being fit and well.
That's great advice. And I'm with you on that. You don't. You can be fit without it.
Mhm.
Take a walk, come back, do your push-ups, your squats, and abs or
And you're
crunches.
good.
Yeah, done. Workout over. Done. That's it. That's all you need. All right. So speaking of workout, we talked about this earlier. What is your must-have song right now on your playlist for your workout?
I love Nipsey Hussle's Grinding All My Life.
Right
I,
on.
I think it has a good beat and it's like, yeah, like we're grinding in here. We're getting it.
There's nothing like a good song that just like motivates can motivate you to like push harder, I think.
Absolutely. And it like locks you in your zone. You're like,
Mhm.
I'm that girl. I'm killing it out here.
And I might break it down in between if it's a really
Right,
good, it's got a good
right.
beat,
In
right?
here
Yeah,
getting it. You can't touch me.
right. Step back. This is my zone right here. All right here.
Right.
So the last question I always ask, and to me, it's like it's open. So if there's, do you have something on your heart that you want to share with us before we wrap up?
Um, I think there's two things. My big thing, and I say it all the time, even on my Instagram, is like just see it through. I think so many people, and I actually just posted this quote, so many people are dope, they just quit too soon. And I think the big thing is that even when like fear and the unknown and your doubts and insecurities come to challenge you and convince you to quit, I think the big thing is like to understand, you know what it looks like to not have done. You know what it looks like to whatever dream you have, you know what it looks like to not do it. And so to me, I say give yourself a fighting chance to see it through. Like see what it looks like. Even if it doesn't work out, you have a frame of reference now. But to never do anything or to never like take the first step or just to see it through, you never even get to know what could have been possible. And you may find that you do it in one way and it's like, oh, okay, what it popped if I did it in this way. And so now you have like cheat codes and you have a blueprint for what works and what does not work for you. But if you never do it, you never know. And I feel like you should never tell yourself no in life. You don't let yourself be the no. Let other people tell you no. Build the things and let other people say, not that, but I prefer it this way. But like, I don't ever want to be the person telling myself no in life by not just seeing what happens.
I love that. I've had my own battle. Like I've had a lot of self-talk recently. Well, this has been years on certain things where I would talk myself out of doing something. Like I would talk myself out of it. Nobody talked me out of it. I talked myself out of it. Or I like, let me put it to the side and I'll get to
Mhm.
that when I'm ready, right? When I'm
Absolutely.
ready, when I'm more educated or when I'm more planned or when I've had time to figure it out. And
Absolutely.
now I'm just learning, no, sister, you just got to do it.
You
Like,
just got to do it.
mhm.
You just got to do it. And I remember people would say like, take the first step. And I'm like, what is the first step? What is that? What is that? Like,
Like,
I hate when people talk in like abstract ways, but I think sometimes the abstract self-talk or motivation is because intuitively, in your heart, you know what the first step is. And you know when you're not taking the first step because you're hiding behind fear. And so even like you said, you'll put it to the side or now's not a good time. And there's never going to be a good time. There's never, but like to me, like just move the needle, keep moving the needle, take one step, then take another step. And what you'll find is that when you're moving, people are more likely to come find you and seek you out and respond to you and give you the resources and things you need because you're already moving in your alignment. So I feel like you're telling the universe what you need. But if you stay stuck and if you don't move, nobody knows what you need or what to give you. So now that I've like, built this bigger gym and people see the space and like I've been moving in alignment. So I'm drawing people to me who are like, oh, I love the space. Can I rent that out? Yeah, so I say like move because you create like waves and vibrations around you where you attract exactly what you need.
Perfectly said. And that's how I feel about this whole conversation, because this is everything that this podcast is all about. And the fact that we haven't even had these conversations yet until now is like perfect. Like I knew kind of where we were going, but I didn't know how this one was going to unfold. And like everything you're saying is so on point for right now.
You're asking really good questions. You're good.
I'm trying to get better.
You're
like
good.
I was so funny today because I wrote a post about I haven't posted it yet, so I'm telling y'all now, but I wrote a post about fear because I was paralyzed by fear. I've been paralyzed by it several times in my life to move forward. And I would have people ask me and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I would go to do it. And then I would just like shrink back. And then I would have all these this like negative self-talk, not worthy enough, not good enough, not there yet. I got to keep going. I got to keep, and finally this year, even just doing this podcast for me was a step out, was like, ooh, here we go. Because the Amazing Weekend was supposed to happen. And when it didn't, I didn't want to not tell women, not want to have the opportunity to share stories. And we started with 6 episodes, like, let's just test the water, and then, but it was taking that step even to do it. And then I'm like, but what if I don't sound right? Or what if I don't ask the right questions? Or what if I don't edit it right? All of that. So for you to like talk about this, and this is like something that, right, you're right on point with like vibrations and like opening the door to bring people across your path. And then you have that encouragement and that inspiration that you need.
Absolutely.
Like, it's awesome. So thank you. I really do appreciate you being on. You've been awesome. And I can't wait to come to your gym.
Thank you.
To end it, where do people find you?
So the best place to find me is Instagram. So my username is prettyfit_trainer. It's funny because so you
okay, I have to tell us where we got Pretty Fit, because that's what I call you all the time. Pretty Fit in the house.
My email is Taylor, TAYLOR at charlottefit.com. And then obviously you can definitely come onto the website and book an appointment or a consultation and do a drop-in session. Love to have people. And that is mycharlottefit.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on. This was great.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, girl, you'll be back. We'll talk again soon. There'll be things that you have to update us on.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining me today. If you like the podcast, please like and share this with other women in your life. You can find out more about SweatNet on sweatnet.com or follow them on Instagram at SweatNet and SweatNet Charlotte. You can follow me personally on Instagram at @It'sSealSmart. Stay tuned for the next episode of the SweatNet Be Amazing podcast.